So I hope all of you have received the class notes which I prepared from your... So if you have not received, then please talk to your cell leaders. I have already sent the class notes, Bhakti Sastri class notes, whatever notes that I speak from, whatever I have prepared in this class, that I have sent it out to all your cell leaders. So please talk to them and you can get it from them. But the caveat is that is not those notes are not a substitute for studying Srila Prabhupada's books. So those notes have been given to you only as a quick reference guideline. Actually, not even necessarily for this exam that you are going to write, but more when you will be teaching Bhakti Sastri or whatever, or if you have to give a class and you want to give a class on the gist of some chapter, then those notes will act as a very quick reference point for all of you. But it is not a substitute for reading Srila Prabhupada's books. The goal of this Bhakti Sastri course is for all of us to compulsorily dedicate some time out of our busy schedule to read the Bhagavad Gita cover to cover. Many of you have not yet got first initiation or not yet got second initiation. In the process of first initiation or second initiation, there is a form where they'll ask you, have you read the Bhagavad Gita end to end? So we want all of you to take yes rather than no. It looks a bit odd that we are getting first initiated or second initiated, and then we say that I haven't read the Bhagavad Gita end to end. How does that sound? Isn't it? So this is the course which will give you that opportunity, and that's why exams are there, because at least exams will compel one to read the Bhagavad Gita end to end. So these notes are not a substitute for reading Prabhupada's books. In fact, as much as we are teaching this Bhakti Sastri course, we are also students of another course called as Bhakti Vaibhav, which ended actually last week. Actually this week, Tuesday, we had our final exams. After 7 years of the course, we had our final exam. Keshav Prabhu doesn't give any handouts or notes like this. His notes, what he makes, he doesn't give it. So there is no precedent of anyone giving notes. So you are the first batch probably who is receiving all the notes which the speaker has prepared. So it's not a norm, so it's an exception we have made. Therefore, I am again re-emphasizing. So it's not a substitute for reading Prabhupada's books. So reading Prabhupada's books will give us the depth and the confidence to be able to preach. Not only preach, but in all aspects of life. Our sadhana also will improve if we read Srila Prabhupada's books. So please take the notes from your cell leader. If they have not yet given you, please chase up and get it from them. Alright. So the aim of today what we are going to do is, we are not going to start any new chapter. We'll do a quick recap of chapters 1 to 4. And then you may want to take notes of anything, but there will be some subtle hints that will be given. You'll have to catch it. What can come in your paper? Yeah, so what I'm going to tell you is that I'm going to read out the questions to all of you. That will be the subtle hint. No, I'm not going to do that. So I'll give you...
Ensure that the recording is properly done. Recording.
Again, we have to understand that it's not about writing the exam and passing the exam. Someone came to me last week and said that, can I get your notes? And I actually said no. But then I thought that I'll give it anyway. I said no, because I'm just afraid. Of course, The request itself was that, can I get your notes because I'm very busy and I can't study Prabhupada's books. And therefore I said no. So now that I have given the notes, it's given based on the full trust and faith that all of us will read Srila Prabhupada's books. Alright. So we'll recap chapter 1 to 4 now. And in between, if there are any questions, you can ask. So when did we start the class? I don't know. June something? 2nd of... Huh?
9 and 6.
Again, there are 5 opinions.
9 and 6.
First class was 8.
8th.
Oh, this is the first class, 0 class.
Yeah, the introductory class, when was that?
2nd of
2nd of June. Okay. How many months have elapsed now? 5 months.
Second of
So we are almost covering on an average 1 chapter a month. Like that. So 18 chapters will take 1.5 years. That is without a break. And now we are going to have a break anyway. So let's see. We'll discuss also towards the end of the class on the exam date, etc. I'll try to make it as participative as I can. But if there is pandemonium and chaos in this room, if I get 15 views, then I will decide one. That will be the final. Okay. I'll try and make it as participative as possible. Keshav Prabhu doesn't do that. He gives an exam date. That's all. He doesn't give us a choice.
He's got all obedient students, not like us.
Not obedient. We don't have a choice. You ask Raja Prabhu. He said that he wants the essays by this date. That's it. There is no negotiation after that. Of course, sometimes he gives time, extra time, but all right. So,
you are more merciful than Keshav Prabhu.
by giving nice statements, you don't get any marks. It will become tougher for you then. On the contrary. Okay. So all of you please have mercy and read Prabhupada's books. Have mercy on Srila Prabhupada. Okay, so in the introductory class, one of the first things that we saw was what is the aim of any educational program? What is the aim of any educational program? To build 3 things. What are those?
Knowledge, skill, values.
Correct. Knowledge, skills and values. So we saw that. So mere knowledge is not enough. We need skills also. So we have to be able to apply that knowledge to be able to preach. So when we read something, then we have to understand that it's not only knowledge, but we have to know how to give that knowledge to people. And that is a skill we have to cultivate. Based on whether we are addressing bachelors, whether we are addressing householders, whether we are addressing Africans, whether we are addressing Tanzanians, Indians, Australians, depends. Whether we are addressing ladies, men, old people, young people, right, children, the same message has to be given in different ways to different audience. So the goal of reading Prabhupada's books is to get not only knowledge but to also develop those skills and be confident when we are preaching. The third is not only knowledge and skills, more importantly, we also need to live our life based on the Bhagavad Gita. It is not only important to read Bhagavad Gita and be able to recite shlokas and to be able to top the exam. It is even more important to live Bhagavad Gita. So in that sense, the results which will come out from this exam need not necessarily point to the best devotee in the classroom just because somebody stood first in the exam. It is okay. So please do not despair if you are not standing first in the exam. It is very good. Prabhupada will be pleased if you can stand first in the exam, because that means you have read you have studied Srila Prabhupada's books most scrutinizingly. But again, it doesn't mean that only that is the aim of the course. The aim of the course is also to develop values, to be able to live, to be able to cultivate high standards in our life. So knowledge, skills and values. This is the aim of any educational program, and this is the same. And Bhakti Sastri course, being an educational program, also has the same goals. Now, we have formed a nice structure for all of you, where you have self-servant leaders, and then all of you are part of some cell or group. It's important that, and I'm believing that these cells are meeting regularly under the cell leaders and discussing Bhagavad Gita. If it's not happening, both the cell leader as well as the group, they are not doing their jobs. So, but I believe that is happening, and that's the way to study Srila Prabhupada's books. It was Srila Prabhupada's desire that all of us read his books scrutinizingly. That is Srila Prabhupada's desire. So, in that sense, reading Srila Prabhupada's books scrutinizingly is the way to please Srila Prabhupada. I can't see you all, Mataji. So, I'll come in front or you all come there. I can't see all of you. So is the other room also there, going on, recording? So if you want to, if children are making noise, feel free to sit in the other classroom at any point in time, because I think the quality of audio is exactly the same, audio and video. Alright. So reading Srila Prabhupada's books scrutinizingly is very important, and that gives pleasure to Srila Prabhupada. How to read Srila Prabhupada's books such that we derive best out of that reading? Yeah. So we discussed the 12 aims of Shastric study in our class. Cup Fate March. Knowledge, understanding, preaching application, practical application. So in your exam, you can expect questions which address these 12 aims in different ways. You could get a question which talks specifically about a situation, and then you have to preach to someone in that situation. So the tone of your answer should be one of preaching. To answer that question, the tone should be one of preaching. Sometimes Keshav Prabhu gives a question to us. A Mayavadi enters the Hare Krishna temple, appears for the Sunday feast, and he says, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. How will you preach to this person based on what you have learned from this section of Srimad Bhagavatam? Okay, so that would be a question. Then you have to write, Dear Mr. Mayavadi. Something like that. Now, please do understand that blah 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 blah. The absolute truth is understood in 3 phases. Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. Then you write that answer. So the tone of the answer will be as if you are preaching to someone. Just not the philosophy. Don't write a monotone for every answer. Understand the question if it's coming from preaching point of view. Questions can come from personal application. For example, in Bhakti Vaibhav, question could come. Do you remember any question that came in this exam? Janeshwar, any question you could remember from the latest exam which we took? Personal application from Chitraketu's section.
How do you avoid this?
Correct. What is your personal plan of action to avoid offenses or to avoid offending devotees? What's your personal plan? So there are 2 things to be understood in that context. Don't write a general answer. There are 10 offenses to the holy name. Not to blaspheme devotees who are engaged in the propagation of holy name of the Lord. To disobey the instruction of spiritual master. If you write like that, you will not get anything. Okay, that everyone knows. Okay, we must chant our rounds very attentively, so that we will not make offenses. We will follow the 4 regulative principles. No. Okay, all these answers will not go anywhere. Okay. So the context of that section should be understood. For example, in this question, Keshav Prabhu was specifically pointing out on which pastime was that? On no Chitraketu. Offenses against Was it offenses or how not to blaspheme? What was the question exactly? Can you articulate that and I will remember?
Not to offend
Not offend.
devotees.
Not only offend any devotees, correct. So the whole idea was Mother Parvati, she curses Chitraketu to become a demon in his next lifetime. Mother Parvati fails to understand that Chitraketu is a Vaishnava. Whereas Lord Shiva, on whom he laughed, they have a different relationship between themselves. So Lord Shiva is telling Parvati, how could you have cursed him? For example. So it's almost like this. Please don't take it literally because Lord Shiva's position is very high. But almost like Lord Shiva and Chitraketu are on a friendly platform. And Parvati is the wife of your friend. You've joked with your friend and his wife got upset, not understanding the relationship between these two people. Does it make sense or no? So let's say myself and Damodar Prabhu are very good friends. So I'm just joking and telling something to Damodar Prabhu. I'm just joking something and I'm talking to him and his wife takes offense. How can this person say like that? So that is the situation. So explain your personal plan to avoid making offenses to devotees. So obviously we can't write those who are glorifying, blaspheming devotees. We don't want that answer. It's a personal plan based on that context. So then you may write an answer which says that I'll be careful in future that when I have friendships with so many Vaishnavas, I will be careful when the wife is there along with them on how I deal with them, because the wife may not understand the relationship there. Something like that. Or when two Matajis have a very good relationship and they are discussing, then the husband is there, then the Matajis will write that I'll be careful, I'll take cognizance of the fact that her husband may not like certain things. So I'll be aware. So there's a very specific context to each and every question that is being asked. So we have to catch that. Number 2, when we are asked to write a question based on a personal plan, what we do not want is one should avoid the 10 offenses. One should chant attentively. No. What is your personal plan? And that personal plan can vary for different individuals. My personal plan could be to avoid that in a particular way. Even if it means that my personal plan is to go through the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam again and again, read this section, so that it reminds me how to deal with my friend when his wife is standing next to him. Something like that. So it's a very context specific, and your answers must be in the first person. First person means I will do, not one should do, not it should be done, not all of us should remember. No, not like that. I will remember, I will do. Something like that. What's your personal plan to surrender to a disciplic, to surrender to a spiritual master in disciplic succession? So the answer need not be that Rupa Goswami has said, that one should surrender to a spiritual master in disciplic succession. This is one of the 5 most important items, he has said. Therefore, one must remember. So one must, and then you give all the criteria after that. These are all the criteria that one must choose. It's not like that. The answer should be something like, I intend to, having understood that from this section of Bhagavad Gita, that this is the philosophy, just 1 or 2 lines on this, that one must add. So therefore, I will do the following. I will download from ISKCONDesiretree.com lectures of Satswarup Das Goswami Maharaj, Chandramodi Swami, Jai Pataka Maharaj, Kadambakanand Swami, Devamrit Swami. I will download. Then I will hear lecture. When they come to Melbourne, I will do the following through their God brothers. I will take up Istri service for Maharaj's clothes. That is exactly what is expected. Because that is a personal plan. When you are writing that, then you have to do it. So please understand, and don't answer personal plan questions in philosophy language. Okay. So Srila Prabhupada's books have to be studied scrutinizingly, and one must remember the 12 aims of Shastric study, and the question can come around any of the 12 aims. It could even be a mood and mission question. Like that. Okay, so we did the 12 aims in that class. Then we studied the preface. We talked about the preface. So there we discussed Srila Prabhupada's mood and mission in scripting and purporting the Bhagavad Gita as it is. So different aspects of Prabhupada's mood are seen. Srila Prabhupada did not write for any prestige. His love for his spiritual master made him write those books as a service to his spiritual master. So what is the mood that is coming out from that? That means whatever activity we do, we must do it as a service to our spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada felt that he is writing these books for his own purification. Therefore he himself used to read these books. He never thought that he is the doer. And actually he writes that it was Lord Krishna who dictated these things to me. I was simply scripting, but whatever I have written is being dictated by him. Srila Prabhupada said, my purports are my spiritual ecstasies. Like that. So that was his very, very different mood of writing. Not like, some Harry Potter, someone writes and then takes credit for that and makes money out of it. He had no idea of writing something for popularity or whatever. He was very uncompromising in what he wrote. So there are so many aspects of Srila Prabhupada's writings that are coming forth. He was he was cutting the Mayavadis. Every page Prabhupada cuts Mayavadis literally. His goal was to remove ignorance from our hearts. Srila Prabhupada wrote for all sections of society. So there was no discrimination in his mind. So many points that we saw. So you have to think through and understand what is Srila Prabhupada's mood. So we saw that in the class. Then chapter 1. We saw the Falashruti of chapter 1, which is to cross the ocean of material miseries and serve Lord Krishna. Chapter 1 was divided into 2 parts. Actually 3 parts. The first one was preparation for war. Till 1.11 almost, it's preparation for war. In that section we saw what was Dhritarashtra's mood. What was Dhritarashtra's mood largely? What are the symptoms?
He was partial.
Yeah, partial. Yeah.
Must too attached to his son.
Attachment, yes. So the number 1 point is what? Attachment. What else? Scared, yes. Fear, attachment. These are the symptoms that he shows. Then influence of the holy dham on the outcome. Yeah. So that was there. So all these point to mode of ignorance. All these symptoms point to the mode of ignorance. So that was Dhritarashtra's mood. On the other hand, we also saw Duryodhana's mood. Duryodhana's mood was very similar to what we see in mode of passion. Ready to go all the time, fight like that. Envious, sarcastic, diplomatic. So that was his mood, right? So he was in a different mode. We saw a similarity between the moods of Bhima and Dronacharya, right? So Bhima, what is common between Bhima and Dronacharya's mood? Revenge. Avenging something was there in their mind all the time. And then we saw Lord Krishna's mood. What was Lord's mood? Yeah, Bhaktavatsala. So all that he was interested there is in protecting the spiritual as well as the material interest of the Pandavas. He had his own mission. So we saw Lord Krishna's entry into the Bhagavad Gita as Bhaktavatsala. As a charioteer, intimate servant, protector of the devotees. We saw an example of Sakhya Ras between Lord Krishna and Arjuna. Arjuna, he became the charioteer. And they were exchanging words as if they are friends. So he's telling, Senaya or Ubhay or Mati, can you take the chariot there? No. Arjuna is saying, no, obviously you don't tell the Lord. It's very difficult for us to understand. Can we tell the Lord? Lord, can you please bring that stool here? I want to sit. Can you imagine? But that's how the conversation is happening between Arjuna and the Lord. Can you take the chariot there? And that too with the feet, like that. So this is very intense. It's unimaginable for most sadhakas, like that. It's a very high level of relationship they are having. So we see that, and Lord Krishna is also very happy in that. He doesn't say, oh, you have touched me, now you've done an offense, seva aparad. No, not like that. This is raganuga, bhakti. Then we saw the 9 signs of victory for the Pandavas. What were the 9 signs? Anyone remembers?
Krishna's presence. What is our Bhakti?
The chariot given by the flag has one on it.
Okay, so please go through that if you like.
It's an exam question, Prabhu.
Whatever I speak, if I follow by if you like, go through it, it doesn't mean it's going to come in the exam. Okay. Reading Prabhupada books is the goal of the exam. The course. Exactly. Yes. And those who don't read will not clear the exam. That is also there. Okay, so we saw, then we discussed a little bit more on Lord Krishna as Bhakta Vatsala between 1.21 to 1.27. So Lord is Bhakta Vatsala both from a material point of view as well as spiritual point of view. So the Lord does whatever is required with his devotee to protect the spiritual interest of his devotees. It is not necessary that the Lord will always be goody-goody with us. If the Lord believes that we are getting too comfortable in the material world, then he can give us a slap to make us realize that you are getting too attached now to deha patya kalatra adishu, to wife, children, house, husband, father, mother, right? Car. So it doesn't mean that the Lord will always deal with his devotee in goody-goody fashion. So devotees can get slaps from the Lord, just to shaken them up a little bit and make them aware that now get ready to come back to me. He wants us to come back to him. So Bhakta Vatsala doesn't necessarily mean, we discussed, and at that time coincidentally the Nepal air tragedy was there. We discussed quite a bit on different aspects, especially from Govind Prabhu's class, like that. That everything need not be very hunky-dory in a devotee's life. Right? Doesn't mean that when we start driving on the road, red carpet will be there on the road and then we can drive wherever. No, it's not going to be like that. It doesn't mean that material phenomena do not apply to a devotee. It doesn't mean necessarily. If we don't brush our teeth, we cannot say that our mouth will not smell because we are chanting through this mouth. Our mouth will stink if we don't brush our teeth with whatever toothpaste regularly. If we don't take bath, it doesn't mean our body will not stink. Because Prabhu, the body of a devotee is transcendental. No, it will stink. Right? So we should not assume that just because we have started chanting, that means material phenomena is not applicable to us. Everything paranormal will happen in our life. No, it doesn't mean like that. I will not. My children need not study. So, but Krishna will take care. No, they will get into Mark Robertson College. No, it is not like that. They will have to study, like that. So we have to understand the Lord being Bhakta Vatsala. In what sense the Lord is Bhakta Vatsala? We discussed quite a bit on that. Arjuna's 5 arguments also we discussed. 5 arguments not to fight. What are the 5 arguments that he put? Loss of enjoyment, destruction of family, fear of sinful reaction, destruction of family tradition and indecision. So we saw all that. Then we came to chapter 2. Chapter 2, again we discussed the Falashruti, which is detachment and bhakti. And from chapter 2 onwards, the Lord's refutation of Arjuna's questions commence. Lord is now refuting. One of the things that's very important to understand in the Bhagavad Gita, when we move from one chapter to another, is what is the connecting link between these chapters. We have discussed that also in every class. So you may want to hear that and understand how the Bhagavad Gita is flowing from one chapter to the other, like that. So Arjuna had these 5 arguments not to fight. So in chapter 2, Lord Krishna is addressing Arjuna's dilemma. Now whenever we read Bhagavad Gita, we have to understand that yes, Arjuna's dilemma was there in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, but there are general principles we can draw from Arjuna's life. All of us are also in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. All of us also have our bit of compassion. All of us also have our bit of hatred and aversion to certain things or certain people. Okay. So all of us also have some extent of fear in this material world. So when we read the Bhagavad Gita, we should not just read it as a story. We have to be able to extrapolate the general principles that we can draw from Arjuna's life and how they are applicable to our lives. And different people may apply those principles in different ways. So Arjuna had his problems, we also have our problems. Arjuna is taking shelter of Krishna in order to solve his problem. And Lord Krishna is now refuting the flawed arguments of Arjuna. Like that. So, Lord Krishna, the first thing that Lord is advising Arjuna is that you are not the body, you are the spirit soul. In fact, most of the second chapter is dedicated to that one important concept, where Lord is telling Arjuna that if you don't understand this, you will not understand anything that I am speaking further. So, a lot of examples are given in chapter 2 on the characteristics of the soul. So, Lord Krishna is giving what is called as Jnana. So, chapter 2 is very heavy on Jnana Yoga, like that. The knowledge by which one can get detached from the material world. When I say material world, it doesn't mean only your bank balance. It also means detachment from family members. That attachment is too strong. Even a person who doesn't have any money is very strongly attached to family members. So the art of cultivating detachment, that is what it's a very central theme. By understanding the difference between matter and spirit, by understanding the impermanent nature or transient nature of the material world, fleeting nature of the material world. So Lord Krishna is systematically refuting Arjuna's lamentation. So we need to understand how the Lord is, what is the lamentation, how it is being refuted. There's a dialogue which is going on, which all we have seen in our class. Lord Krishna spends Srila Prabhupada writes very elaborate purports on certain key sections in the chapter 2. One of the most important purports is what? In chapter 2. Yeah, so Mayavadi refutation. one of the most important sections in chapter 2. Mayavadi refutation, whereas we saw Mayavadi arguments and Vaishnava refutation. We saw that. Where the Lord says that never was a time when you didn't exist, nor I did not exist, nor all these people in the battlefield. Never was a time that they did not exist. Which means the spirit soul is eternal. And the Lord is saying, I, you. Srila Prabhupada is talking about the individuality of the soul. That's why Lord said, I and you. And then Prabhupada also writes that individuality of the soul doesn't also necessarily mean that the soul of the Lord and our soul are one and the same. They are qualitatively one, but quantitatively different. Achintya Bheda Abheda. This is the central point of our philosophy. Our entire philosophy stands on this, which was given by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. After Madhvacharya gave Dvaitam, and after Ramanujacharya gave Vishishta Dvaitam. After that, our philosophy is Achintya Bheda Bheda. All of them talk about the same thing, but the focus is coming differently, like that. So God and Jiva cannot be one. That is the principal understanding as devotees we need to have. Otherwise we are no different to Mayavadis. Now it is important to understand that because the Lord said we are all individuals, it doesn't mean individuality necessarily means contamination. It doesn't necessarily mean that way. Does it make sense or no? When are we individuals? Why are we individuals? We are individuals because we are part and parcels of the Lord. It doesn't mean that we are individuals because at the end of the day, all of us are one Supreme Brahman. Because of contact with three modes of material nature, now we have attained our individuality. And this individuality is temporary in its nature. Therefore, please understand that ultimately everything is one. No, that is Mayavadi philosophy. That is why Lord Krishna is saying, never was a time that you were not there, I was not there, nor any of these people were there. So never was a time means what? Whether you are in the conditioned state or whether you are in the liberated state, you will still continue to be individual. So we understand that. So individuality necessarily doesn't mean contamination. We saw that. We are not individuals simply because we are conditioned souls. We are individuals even in our liberated state. So there is a relationship. We can never become God. There is only one position that is already taken. Right? So Srila Prabhupada writes all this. Otherwise Prabhupada writes that if that were true, then what is the point in Lord Krishna's addressing the Bhagavad Gita? If he is also same like us, his individuality is also a product of his association with the three modes of material nature, then the Bhagavad Gita doesn't have any relevance. Then why is he speaking the Bhagavad Gita? He is like any of us. It's like Changu is telling Mangu. It doesn't matter. Isn't it? Both are fallible souls. He is giving some opinion there. No, it doesn't work like that. So Prabhupada writes very clearly there. So that is a very key section in chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita. So the two things: who are you? What is your relationship with the Lord? We are not the body, we are spirit soul. And the relationship of the spirit soul with the Supreme Personality is nitya, is eternal, and there is an individual relationship which every soul has with the Supreme Lord. And when one understands that relationship, then that state is called as self-realization. So if you like, the chapter 2 is entirely about the science of self-realization or the journey of self-discovery. So these books are based largely on chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 2 in that sense is a summary also of the entire Bhagavad Gita. There are other things also which are spoken, but primarily it's jnana. Of course, we also discussed a little bit of rasa in terms of Dhiro Datta, Dhir Lalita, Dhir Prashanta. We discussed that also. We branched to Nectar of Devotion and came back. That is not originally part of the Bhagavad Gita in that sense, but it was more of supplementary information, just to understand the mood of the Lord. Yes, we saw the Lord entering as Rishikesha in the first chapter itself, first or second chapter was it? Second chapter. Panchajanyam Rishikesha Devadattam Dhananjaya Poundram Dadmo Mahashankam Bhima Karma Viko. In that verse, the Lord is entering as Rishikesha. Rishikesha means what? Controller of the senses. So it's very important to understand this principle. That is chapter 1. I'm sorry, I stand corrected. Again, I'm sorry. Thanks for correcting. But please do that. Please do that. So, the Lord is Rishikesha, which we forgot. So, therefore, any problems that we have in our spiritual life, anything that we desire to overcome but we cannot overcome, then we depend on the Lord. Devotees don't think that they can overcome their own problems by their own abilities. We have to act, obviously, to overcome some difficulties. Our action is important, but His mercy is required. He is the ultimate, the results come out of Him. And this is very apt month for discussing that. Because the Damodar pastime is all about endeavor and mercy. So the Lord can be, for tying up the Lord, Mother Yashoda still had to bring the rope. Right? But as much as she was trying to tie the rope, it was always 2 inches too short. Yes. So therefore, she had to, and the Lord got bound later on, just because He thought, okay, fine, let me get bound now, because she desires that I be bound. So by His own mercy, then she was able to bind Him to the grinding mortar. So therefore, today also, somebody was asking me that it is becoming very difficult to give up certain foods, onion, garlic, all those things. So the way of giving them up is only to chant, develop a higher taste and chant and beg to the Lord. So devotional life, we have to give up so many things. In fact, some of these things to give up are easier. We will find that in devotional life, it is easier to give up tea, coffee, onion, garlic. These are the most simplest parts. Initially, a devotee thinks this is a big challenge. But these are the easiest things. Most of the devotees who have given them up always come back and say that these are the easier things to do. I was hearing a lecture from my godbrother Govind Prabhu. He was saying that, he was quoting Bhurijan Prabhu when he was saying, and he was saying that Bhurijan Prabhu said that it is very easy for devotees not to read newspapers, but it is very difficult for devotees not to blaspheme other devotees. Okay. So devotees are very expert at doing the simple things right, but the difficult things are really difficult. Not to pass our esteemed opinion on other devotees, getting along with other devotees. These are the areas where we struggle. He was especially answering a question. He had given an entire class, and where it was, it was about Aghasur and Bakasur and all these demons, Putana. So it is said that, if these devotees can get liberation, even though they tried to kill the Gopas, we are all actually, very elevated souls in front of them, isn't it? Because we are not killing anyone. We are not taking the form of a crocodile or a snake to kill someone. So we are all very elevated. So if they can go back to Godhead, then for us it should be very easy then. At least we are not doing all those things. We are just going to our office and just working. Correct? So he said, no, sorry, it's not so easy. It's not so simple. So Agar, Sur, etc., all those things are very nice to hear from a pastime basis. But the reality is that we will have to put our genuine effort to purify ourselves. The Lord compensates where we lack. But the Lord doesn't say, I'll do your work for you. No worries, If you can't give up alcohol, no problem, continue. Or if you have given up alcohol, very good. Because you have given up alcohol, you can now blaspheme all the devotees. No problem. I am there, no? Bhakta Vatsala, to protect your... No, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. We have to put our effort, even in Grihastha Ashram, to be able to follow the 4 regulative principles with one's own spouse. Having association with the wife only for the purpose of begetting children, one has to put an effort in that direction. Can't say that, oh Lord, let me enjoy, and one day suddenly, you come to me and give me the realization somehow. No. When the desire comes to associate, at that time one has to remember the instructions and put effort. And then the Lord sees that yes, this person is genuinely putting effort. Now let me come and control his senses as Rishikesha. But the effort has to be done by us. Everything will not run on autopilot. Okay. Autopilot is only for a pure devotee. Because the Lord says, I control the senses of a pure devotee. So that is autopilot. But right now we are not on that stage. So there is effort that is required. So, we also saw in text 2, Lord Krishna is addressing the chapter of compassion with great depth. True compassion versus false compassion. We saw both. What is the difference? What is the basic thing between true compassion and false compassion? What is the principal point?
False compassion is for body and true is for
Correct.
soul.
False compassion is based on bodily platform. True compassion is based on the compassion of the soul. In Milpark program today, we were discussing this principle in great depth about real compassion. Real compassion should therefore extend to not only to other human beings but also to the animal community and the plant community, any living species. That is true compassion. Because that compassion is on the basis of the soul, not the body. If compassion is only based on the body, then we will say that okay, I'll extend all compassions to only Malaysians or only expand to all Telugu speaking people. Okay, that is where my compassion and my heart will flow. That is based on a bodily platform. But true compassion is based on the soul. We saw external symptoms of compassion. Lips quivering, mouth drying up, right? We saw all those symptoms. So externally the symptoms of true compassion and false compassion may look sometimes alike, but one has to be very discerning what is true and what is false compassion. Any questions thus far?
True compassion in terms of plants, Prabhuji, this is the first time, sorry, maybe I missed in that class. Does it mean that we should not go and harm the plants or pluck anything from plants? Or?
Yeah, it actually means that we should not go and harm the plants. So devotees don't engage in what is that, felling of trees or whatever. Devotees don't do all that. But at the same time, devotees also understand that jivo jivasya jivanam. We have to subsist, every living entity for its survival has to subsist on another living entity. So that is a law which is created by the Lord. So what a devotee does is, yes, to survive, devotee has been, Shastras have ordained that for human beings, vegetables and fruits and milk, these are the things that we should partake, nuts. So devotee still eats all these things, and there is some himsa here also for trees. But to circumvent that, we offer our bhoga to the Lord. That's why yat karoshi yat joshi. So we offer everything. If we don't offer, then even eating vegetarian is a sin. Whatever we eat verily becomes sin. Like that. So we saw different arguments that Arjuna is posing on the platform of Dharma Shastra, Artha Shastra. But ultimately, what is the highest dharma? Highest dharma is Haritoshanam. Samasiddhir Haritoshanam. That is higher than anything else, or other dharma. So the highest dharma is Bhagavad dharma. It's higher than other dharmas, from where Arjuna, on the platform which Arjuna is arguing with Lord Krishna. However, most conditioned souls struggle to come directly to the platform of Bhagavad dharma. Therefore, what is given to us to gradually come to that point? Yes, Varnashrama dharma has been ordained by the Lord. So the Lord gives some lessons on Varnashrama dharma also in this section. The goal of Varnashrama Dharma is what? Samasiddhir Haritoshanam. So that verse is very important to remember. Ata Pumbir Duja Shreshta Varnashrama Vipagasha Swanushtistasya Dharmasya Samasiddhir Haritoshanam. So the Lord has created 4 Varnas and 4 Ashramas: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. But we have to understand, as devotees, we have to understand that simply following this Varnashrama Dharma is not enough. But Varnashrama Dharma is the stepping stone. Varnashrama Dharma one follows means one is at least come to the human platform of life. But the goal of life is not following Varnashrama Dharma. The goal of life is to adopt Bhagavad Dharma, which is higher than Varnashrama Dharma. Varnashrama Dharma will lift the soul from the mode of goodness, from the mode of ignorance, and bring the soul to the mode of goodness. This mode of goodness is said to be the platform or the foundation or the springboard to the mode of transcendental goodness. Right? So, the goal of all Varnashrama Dharma is to prepare ourselves, come to that stage where we can serve the Lord. So that is Varnashrama Dharma. So there are a lot of points highlighting the importance of Varnashrama Dharma in relation to today's society also. The Prabhupada makes in the purport. So you may go through those sections. And through Varnashrama Dharma, we also get our duties for our respective Varna and our Ashrama. So then, towards the end of last few sections of chapter 2, we started discussing karma and nishkama karma yoga. There's a lot of discussions on buddhi yoga, on sankhya yoga, buddhi yoga, and karma yoga. Karma yoga is sakama karma and nishkama karma yoga. So you may go through your notes, understand the finer aspects of each of those yoga systems, like that. Sakama Karma Yoga, the essential point there is what? What is, before that, what is yoga? Yoga comes from the word yuj.
To connect.
It means to connect to the Lord. So, and then in that context, what is Sankhya Yoga? To connect to the Lord, we need to come to the understanding between matter and spirit first, because the Lord is spirit, not matter. For that matter, we are also not matter. We are also spirit, right? So we need to understand this point. So even if we try to understand this point, there is some connection that we are trying to make to the Supreme. At least we are rising above the mundane. So that is why the word Sankhya Yoga is used. But it's not only important to understand that we are not the body, we are made up of spirit, but it is also important to understand one level higher of jnana, which is to understand who is the Supreme and what is our relationship with Him. So through the platform of knowledge, we try and understand that. That is jnana. Higher than that is not only important to understand, have that knowledge, but to do something about it. To do something about it, right? So the moment activity comes, what is that called as? Karma. So that is karma yoga. On the platform of jnana, on the backdrop of that knowledge, then we are doing karma yoga. Karma yogis can be of 2 types. Actually 3 types, but the third is the highest stage. But one can do karma yoga but still be attached to the results, fruits of the activity. So Lord Krishna is mentioning that do your duty but don't be attached to the fruits, or do your duty and offer the fruits to me, like that. So there are different instructions that the Lord is giving. So sakama means that you are attached to the fruits of the activities. You are doing it with an interest. vested interest, but you're also doing bhakti. So sakama karma yoga. Nishkam karma yoga means that you are not attached to the results of the activity, but you're still attached to the activity. We took example of the famous garland service, where fights happen. Who will make Radha Vallabha's garland? So we are still attached to the activity, like that, though everything is being done for the Lord. And then higher than that is the akama platform, where one is neither attached to the activity nor the results of the activity. One is only interested in serving the Lord. One is not even interested in attaining the supreme destination. Govind Prabhu in the same lecture, he mentions that Lord Chaitanya's mood was never for us going back to Godhead. If you find teachings of Lord Chaitanya, you will not find going back to Godhead. What does he say? Na janmani janmani shvare bhavatat bhakti rahaitu kitoi. So the mood is what? That is actually highest akama bhakti, where there is no desire to even go back to Godhead. The only desire is to be a servant of the Lord wherever. Narayana parasarve na kutaschana bibhyati swarga apavarga narakeshu apitulyartha darshanam. Which means you put me in heavenly planets or you put me in hell. It doesn't matter. The devotees of Lord Narayana have only one interest, of constantly serving the Lord. They don't desire any particular destination. They don't desire sarupya mukti. They don't desire salokya mukti. No kinds of liberation is attractive to a devotee. That is actually pure devotional service. Anya abhilashita shunyam jnana karma dhyanavartam. Anya abhilashita. There is no desire. The question of me and my desires don't arise, in pure bhakti. That is akama platform. No attachment to results, no attachment to activities, but intense attachment to serve Lord Krishna in the way that He wants us to serve Him, regardless of and with no regard to where He wants to put us to be able to serve Him. It's very difficult, in one sense. If you see, it's very difficult to pray, "Oh Lord, please send me to the material world because you have a desire to fight. So please let me be a very sinful man in this lifetime, and then you come and tear my stomach and remove my intestines from my stomach." How difficult is that, to pray like that, just because you have a mood to fight? So it's very easy to sit and, we are condemning Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, but we have to really, of course, the lesson is that doesn't mean that we have to start becoming demonic like them. That is not obviously the important. Everyone is mature enough to understand that. But please understand the mood of Jai Vijay, how glorious they are, that they are willing to come as Jagai and Madhai. So everyone, when you speak Jagai and Madhai, people usually, think of sinful personalities. But people, generally, it's very difficult to connect to who they were and how they are fulfilling the wish of the Lord. So, without regard for prestige, without regard for societal positions, completely akama, only for the Lord's pleasure. So this is a yoga ladder we saw. We also saw how from karma kanda one progresses to karma yoga gradually. This we also saw in 3rd chapter, right? Yeah, the 3rd chapter we saw that. 3rd and 4th. Yeah. Sorry, before I come to 3rd, in the 2nd chapter towards the end, we also saw Sthita Prajna or Sthita Dhira. How the general symptoms of a person who is Sthita Dhira Muni. How does he speak? How does he talk? How does he walk? So, very elaborately we discussed that. 3rd chapter was on Karma Yoga, of which we discussed some points already. Falashruti we discussed of the 3rd chapter. Anyone remembers the Falashruti of 3rd chapter?
Like 2 trees get liberated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Falashruti also important for examination.
Good question. No. I'm giving you a hint. I'm not going to ask a question and please list the Phala Shruti of the various. You will not get that kind of a question. So, chapter 3, we spent quite a bit of time on renunciation of work in the earlier sections, because the instructions on Buddhi Yoga has confused Arjuna, and he imagines that Buddhi Yoga means keeping away from activities, abstaining from activities, just by the knowledge that all activities in this material world are ultimately illusory in nature. Therefore, I will not do any activities. So, Arjuna is starting to think like that. He has not correctly understood the instructions on Buddhi Yoga. Also, we understood that we have to be very careful before we call Arjuna a foolish person. Arjuna was put into that situation so that Bhagavad Gita could be spoken for we fools. So we have to understand that very clearly. Okay. So apparently Arjuna is not understanding something which Lord Krishna is saying. So he is under bewilderment. So these instructions on Buddhi Yoga has confused him. And he's saying, that's what I'm also saying, I'll renounce everything and go to the forest. Because everything is illusory, all Maya at the end of the day. So that is why the Lord is talking about Karma Yoga. And then the Lord is explaining Nishkama Karma Yoga to him. Sankhya Yoga is based on Jnana and Buddhi Yoga is based on Karma. With your intelligence, you will have to still engage in activity. One has to have knowledge that differentiates between matter and spirit, but it doesn't mean that because all activities on the bodily platform are illusory in nature, therefore one should not act on the bodily platform. So there is a subtle difference. So he is bringing that out over there, and that forms the genesis of the yoga ladder that we discussed. So we discussed differences between Sankhya Yoga and Buddhi Yoga. Sankhya Yoga being the indirect path, Buddhi Yoga being the direct path. Sankhya Yoga dependence on personal endeavor, Buddhi Yoga dependent on Krishna's mercy, where we still do our activity. Sankhya Yoga only if you see unsure of success, whereas Buddhi Yoga is surety of success because you are acting under the instructions of Lord, but you are acting, you are doing karma. And how Sankhya Yoga requires initial purification by prescribed duty, whereas in Buddhi Yoga, the ends and means are the same. We also saw the commonalities. Both yogas are interdependent, because religion and philosophy are interdependent. So Prabhupada writes a famous statement: religion without philosophy is sentiment, and philosophy without religion is mental speculation. Ultimately, the goal in any yoga process, be it Sankhya or be it Buddhi Yoga, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the purpose of yoga is to establish the self with the super self, the real position of the self. So we saw that. We also we had a very elaborate discussion on the unfortunate renunciant who prematurely renounces activities only to engage in cheating activities. So we discussed a lot of points from Gaurang Prabhu's lecture, saints and swindlers. They are called as Mityacharis. We discussed about that. The charlatan, the hoaxer, the egotist, the abuser, the transgressor, cheats. We saw that. So we saw the conclusion of that. Better than being such a person is to be a detached householder, is to go and work in your office, right? But at the end of the day, inside, be very detached from all these activities, and think of Lord Krishna all the time. Give the fruits of those activities to Krishna, and outside of office, spend as much time as possible on Krishna consciousness for self and family. So such a person who is laudably accepted Grihastha ashram is better than a person who is just donned the saffron robe and meditating on women. So we saw that. So we saw how Lord is instructing Arjuna that Kshatriya's duty is to fight. So your duty is now to fight, not to prematurely renounce this battle. We saw the conclusion of that earlier part of the earlier section of third chapter was liberation or bondage is not determined by one's activities, but one's consciousness in performing those activities. So, therefore, true renunciation is not giving up activities, but giving up the attachment to fruitive activity. That is true renunciation. So, we saw that. Also, we saw that any renunciation which is not based on the foundation of training, knowledge and purification, such renunciation will only lead to destruction in the spiritual path. And without prescribed duties, if we are not doing our prescribed duty and if we still have unlimited desires in the heart for enjoyment, then, and if we renounce prematurely based on that, then we will find that we are again getting trapped in sinful activities. So, self-purification and self-realization both are required and they are actually the purposes of performing prescribed duties. So, Arjuna is asking, what if a person is overly attached to material life and cannot perform Nishkama Karma Yoga? What the Lord is saying. So, then the Lord starts describing the yoga ladder from Karma Kanda to Karma Yoga, which we discussed in great detail. What if a person is not yet renounced to be on the platform of Nishkama Karma Yoga? So, for such a person, Karma Kanda is, initially such persons do Karma Kanda, better than living a life which has got no adherence to the scriptures, living a wayward bohemian life. Today we saw in Milpak program, the result of that is what? Na sukham na param gatim. One neither attains the transcendental abode nor supreme perfection. Living, what is the word we use for that? For wayward? Whimsical. Yeah. Living a whimsical life, like that. So that doesn't lead anyone. So most of us have been living. So people who cannot. So people who live a whimsical life will not attain the. Prabhu, you have put fresh water into this. Thanks. So people who live whimsical life cannot directly come to the platform of Nishkama Karma Yoga. So therefore they have to follow the yoga ladder. So first they have to come from unregulated sense gratification to regulated sense gratification. They have to accept that at least there is a supreme authority. I can't give up my desire to enjoy. I can't give up the results of fruitive activities. I like to do fruitive activities and I like to enjoy the fruits. But what I'll do is, at least I'll do it in a regulated manner. So they start from the lowest rung of the yoga ladder for human platform of life, which is Karma Kanda. So they perform ritualistic activities, calling a priest or a pandit to their house, right? And then by performance of those religious activities, they try to appease the Yagyapati as well as the demigods and therefore attain the fruitive results, what they want. Suppose somebody wants promotion, instead of going through the political route in office, of removing the chair from underneath somebody's desk when he is on vacation and then saying that you are not required in the organization. I have taken over now, smartly. So then the person relies more on, so he'll do a yagya at home and he'll appease whoever is a demigod for promotions. I don't know who he is, but promotion devata. So go and appease the demigods and say, or pray to Lord Ganesh saying that please remove all the obstacles in my office for my growth. So at least he is doing some kind of karma kanda. Give me a good career. Or the ladies may say, the girls may say, oh Uma Devi, please let me get a good husband. With the right combination of wealth, looks, humility. Like that. So that is the first step. Now while doing such karma kanda, invariably one starts interacting with people who have studied the Vedas, right? People who know that the goal of all Vedas is Vishnu. The goal of all yagyas is Vishnu. So because we are doing karma kanda, we will come across these people who will then tell us, I am very happy to do this yagya for you, but please understand that promotion is not the goal of life. They will tell you, the person who comes to do karma kanda for you, that Vadyar, whoever, is supposed to tell you, right? We saw how in Kali Yuga that will not happen. In Kali Yuga it's all about how my remuneration can continue, like that. Whereas in the olden days, the person who does sacrifices, they were actually potent brahmanas. So they will tell you also that ultimately it is Vishnu. So by doing karma kanda, at least somewhere you will hear Vishnu, who is the ultimate enjoyer of all these sacrifices, who is the Bhoktaram. And then the soul will start wondering, okay, hang on. If everything is going to him, can I serve him directly? Like that. So then from karma kanda one comes to Vishnu Bhakti. Then you start doing Sakama karma. So you start worshipping Vishnu, but at least your process is now different. You are worshipping directly Vishnu instead of the demigods. But you still want the fruitive results. So you are moved into Sakama platform right now. And then what happens? After many years of Sakama, then one understands that pure devotional service is Anyabhreshta Shunyam. So one migrates to Nishkama Karma Yoga. So that is how, and what happens is one moves from Sakama to Nishkama by reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. Reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, because Srimad Bhagavatam is what? Amala Purana. Srimad Bhagavatam is only for those people who are Nirmat Saranam, who are completely free from envy. Envy comes because of material desires. So by constantly hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, all that is troublesome to the heart will go away. That's why Srimad Bhagavatam study is very important. I was telling one devotee who is actually a preacher also. Today, he is a very successful preacher, very nice devotee, very good sadhana in his life. The only problem he was lacking is reading Srimad Bhagavatam. So I was telling this devotee that you must read Srimad Bhagavatam, study Srimad Bhagavatam. He is not in this room, so I am confidently saying. So he is not in this room. So I was telling him that reading Srimad Bhagavatam is something that you must start regularly in your life. He has not started reading the Srimad Bhagavatam systematically. So some people have have taken to this task of preaching the message of Krishna Consciousness after graduating from Bhagavad Gita studies and Srila Prabhupada's other books, but still have not got into in-depth study of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, whereas if you ask somebody how your Srimad Bhagavatam has improved your preaching, you will invariably find that everyone agrees that once they start reading Srimad Bhagavatam, their quality of preaching is on a different level after that, rather than one who only has studied Bhagavad Gita. That's why Srimad Bhagavatam study is important. So by reading Srimad Bhagavatam, we will understand how great devotees, how devotees have transcended from karma, Sakama karma to Nishkama karma. In different sections, you will find this theme again and again coming in Srimad Bhagavatam. How devotees have lifted themselves out of worshipping the Lord with material desires and come to the platform of pure bhakti. We also understood when we discussed the Karma Kanda who are the demigods and how the demigods are parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and how when watering the root, we will ultimately appease all the demigods anyway. We saw that everyone is happy when Krishna is happy. And we also saw some practical examples of how devotees go from one stage to the other, even in their devotional life. How we initially have problem with meat and liquor, and then how we overcome that and come to prasadam, tea, coffee. Yes, correct. Tea, coffee addiction. Then we give that up also, but we still have liking for the kaju laddu from quality groceries, or malpoa, packed malpoa purchased from the grocery shop, like that. And then we stop eating that, but we still sometimes may visit Bengal Tiger, right? Or Delhi Palace. We saw all those, right? So devotees also go through a gradual process till you meet another devotee in that restaurant. We saw that how it happened in our life, and then how we struggle to give explanation for why we were there. Okay. So a devotee goes through this typical process, but ultimately we have to come to the highest standard gradually. Then we saw we also saw an aspect of why yajna must be performed. What is that? Annad bhavati bhutani parjanyad anna sambhava. We saw that whole cycle as to how everything comes from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because only when we understand that, we will start worshipping directly Supreme Personality of Godhead. To come out of Karma Kanda to the platform of directly worshipping the Lord, where our Sakama Karma Yoga starts, we should have attachment to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That will only come when we understand that He is the reason behind everything. He is the controller of even the demigods. So from the Supreme Lord comes the Vedas. From the Vedas comes prescribed duties. From prescribed duties we understand performance of yajna and sacrifices. And for performing those yajna and sacrifices we depend on rains. And for food grains are produced by rains. Right? And all living entities subsist on food grains. So if you go by this chain, that all living entities subsist on food grains, which are produced by rains, which are, now you are coming back, which are produced by yajna, which are coming from prescribed duties, which are mentioned in the Vedas, which is spoken by the Supreme Personality of Lord. So then you will trace back that entire connection, that Krishna is the Sarva Karana Karanam. So that cycle has to be understood very nicely for not only improving our faith but also from a preaching application point of view. So we saw different yoga ladders, the extended yoga ladder, the progressive yoga ladder. We saw both. Yeah, the express elevators. So go through those charts during your study time. So then Lord Krishna has talked, we dedicated some time to discuss how Nishkama Karma Yoga must be adopted to set the correct example. Right? We saw in this context what is the difference between an attached worker and a detached worker. You remember all this or no? Yeah. So on what parameters they differ? Based on the desire. The attached worker's desire is own sense gratification. The detached worker's desire is Krishna satisfaction. The attached worker's conviction is based on false ego. Whereas the detached worker is convinced of his awkward position in this material world. We saw the knowledge of identity, we saw the engagements, we saw the consequences of attached and detached worker. So then there's a question, if a person is in knowledge, is expected to set an example, then why don't they set an example of renunciation? That was a question which Arjuna asks. So most people are not qualified to follow the example of renunciation. If an attached person renounces worldly responsibilities, he will eventually try to fulfill the desires irresponsibly. So again that whole theme has come through. Ultimately, we have to understand Karma Kanda, Sakama Karma Yoga and Nishkama Karma Yoga at the end of the day. Working only for fruits, establishing Krishna as the goal yet remaining attached to the fruits and being completely detached from the fruits of work. Of course, some attachment to activity will be there and then eventually giving attachment to the activity and only being attached to the outcome, which is always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna and always act on the pleasure of Krishna. So, in different forms, the same theme was coming across in that section. We talked about principles to overcome lust and anger, to be able to really come to the platform of loving Krishna and to be able to work for Him. Lust and anger are impediments to the process of bhakti. In this context, we also saw that sinful actions are not impelled by the super soul. So we cannot blame the super soul, saying that the God inside my heart told me to stab you 40 times. So Lord Krishna is explaining the root cause of why people do sins. Because Arjuna may think that if the Lord is controlling everything, then He is only the reason for all sinful activities in the world. Because ultimately, after we saw how the Lord is behind everything that is happening in this world. So is He responsible for the sinful activities? No. So Arjuna asks how? The Lord says, lust and anger. Kama yesha, krodha yesha, like that. Rajaguna samudbhava. So we discussed, we had a big section on, had a pretty elaborate discussion on lust. What are the qualities of lust? Lust is more subtle than wrath. Lust burns like fire. Lust arises from mode of passion. Lust does not go with old age. Lust transforms to wrath and anger eventually. Anger can be channelized. But lust has to be overcome. Then there were a lot of examples that we discussed in the context of lust. Prabhupada gives the example of, anyone remembers? Fire covered by smoke, mirror covered by dust, different degrees. An embryo covered by the womb. So we saw all that. So how do we overcome this lust? And where is lust situated? Lust is situated in the senses, mind and intelligence. Lust destroys both jnana as well as vijnana. We saw that. So how to overcome this lust? Because lust prevents us from approaching the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lust prevents us from moving up the yoga ladder. So that with that link we came to how to overcome lust. How to overcome lust? With the help of transcendental knowledge. So that is how we came to the 4th chapter. Right? We discussed the Falashruti of the 4th chapter. So the Falashruti of 4th chapter is what? It not only frees you from the life of a tree, you remember the example, but also gives birth in a devotee family. Not only progressing to the human form of life, but also getting a birth in a devotee family. So, of course, I am not expecting you to remember Falashruti of every chapter. So, but it's good to know from a preaching point of view. So, the Arjuna asks, then how do you understand this transcendental knowledge? And that is the most important part of chapter 4. Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnana sevaya. So then we came to how we must come to the platform of transcendental knowledge by surrendering to a spiritual master in bona fide disciplic succession. In that context, we also saw what are the criteria for someone to be guru. Vacho vegam, manasa krodha vegam. We also saw how to approach a spiritual master in the mood of, not in the mood of challenge, but in the mood of pranipat, like that. So we saw various aspects of how to approach a spiritual master. Lord, we saw also how to ask questions. How Arjuna asked a question to the Lord. When the Lord says that Evam Parampara Praptam verse, he says that I remember all your past lifetimes, but you don't remember. I spoke this to Sun God, then he gave it to Vivaswan, then Manu, Ikshvaku. He tells how the Bhagavad Gita has come down. And Arjuna is not asking him, how can you say this? Or how can you talk like this? He is saying, how do I understand? So we see how a question should be asked. We saw how questions should be asked to Acharyas. Relevant questions and with genuine questions with a view to understanding something. With humility, we have to ask questions like that. So we saw some aspects. Then we talked about the reasons for the appearance of the Lord. The Lord appears for many reasons. Paritrana, 3 reasons are important. Paritrana sadhunam, vinasha dushkrisham, dharma samsthapanarthaya. So he comes to establish religion. the Yuga Dharma. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to establish Yuga Dharma, Dharma Samsthapanarthaya, which is the Sankirtan movement for Kali Yuga. The Lord also comes to annihilate the demons, but we understand that the Lord's primary purpose is not to annihilate the demons. That he could have done with his own, even with his thought he can annihilate. So essentially the highest purpose why the Lord comes is to attract us with his pastimes, to detach us from this material world. So from within our heart, seeing those pastimes, hearing those pastimes, we develop the desire to go back to Godhead. That is the main purpose. So then the Lord also says, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyam. How do I reciprocate with bhaktas? How do I reciprocate with jnanis? How do I reciprocate with yogis? How do I reciprocate with karma kandis? So we saw that also in this chapter. So the Lord says that for the devotees, I make them perfect devotees and make them my own parshads. Then from 4.16 to 24, we talked about understanding karma on the platform of jnana. Here we talked about karma, akarma and vikarma in great depth. And we put a chart also on the board. For who the activity is done, with what attitude it is done, and what is the result of performing that activity. So akarma is done for the purpose, pleasure of Krishna. The attitude is no desire for sense gratification, acting as a servant. Result is transcendental happiness. Vikarma is what? Working with attachment to self. Karma is also working with attachment to self. But the attitude in vikarma is what? Acting against the scriptural injunctions, whereas karma means acting according to scriptural injunctions. So the result is either bad reaction or good reaction. So we saw that. So we also saw how not to judge a devotee externally. We took the example of Avadhuta Brahman. We talked about the example of Umapati Swami. You remember those? How not to judge a devotee externally. Why did we discuss this? Because we were talking about action in inaction and inaction in action. So that is a very important section of 4th canto. I think there was an essay also on that, right? Did I give an essay on this or no? No? Related to that theme. There must have been, there was an essay, I believe. No? Okay. Then we went to the next section, that all sacrifices lead to transcendental knowledge, between 4.25 to 4.33. So we talked about the various classification of sacrifices. So there are 3 types of people who do sacrifices: the demigod worshipper, the karmi, then the jnani does sacrifice, and the bhakta also does sacrifice. How that the karmi does sacrifice? He sacrifices his material possessions so that he can enjoy more, right? तुम 1 पैसा दोगे वो 10 लाख देगा, like that. You put $1 and he'll give 10 lakhs, like that. That is how the karma kandi does. His bhakti is more like an investment, investment strategy to get more returns. He's doing ROI calculations. So he has such a worshipper. Though he does sacrifices, his faith is what? In many demigods. He is hedging. He is doing risk, hedging against risk. If this god is little bit displeased, then that god will take care, like that. So he is called as Bahu Ishwaravadi. On the other hand, an impersonalist also does sacrifices. What kind of sacrifices he does? He renounces all material things. That is his sacrifice. In fact, he sacrifices his own individuality in order to merge with the Supreme. So like that. So the goal is to merge into the Supreme. And what is his faith? His faith is that everything is ultimately temporary in nature. Even the form of the Lord is also temporary, like that. And what to speak of the form of the demigods? Everything is temporary. These people are called Brahmavadis. Then there is a devotee. Devotee sacrifices. How does devotee sacrifice? How it is different? Because devotee respects and worships the demigods. However, he knows that Lord is behind all the Supreme Personality of Godhead is behind the demigods. So he does not go to the demigods for material results. In fact, he uses all the material energy. He doesn't reject material energy. He tries to utilize the material energy and dovetail it in the service of the Lord. So the goal of a devotee is satisfaction of Lord Krishna. His faith is Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is absolute truth. Such people are called as Vaishnavas. So we saw that. Then we talked about how material entanglement happens, the loop of ignorance, sinful life, and dragging one back to material existence. So we talked about Bijam, Kutam, Aprarabdham, Prarabdham. But what is the root of all this? Avidya. Ignorance is the root of all sin. And that is where transcendental knowledge, 4th chapter comes in, to destroy that ignorance. So we saw that. So transcendental knowledge removes not only the sins, but also removes the desire to sin from the heart. So in that sense, transcendental knowledge leads to purity. One second. Okay. Then, how to acquire this transcendental knowledge? By approaching a bona fide spiritual master. The criteria for selection of a spiritual master for Guru Pada-Acharya. What are the criteria? I think there was an essay topic also on this that I have given. Have you all got your essay topics for chapter 4? No? Who is your cell leader? Yogeshwar Govind Prabhu. Okay, so he is in Banke Bihari temple now. Spoke to him 2 days back. Alright, so how will you get your essays? Can someone take charge of Yogeshwar Govind Prabhu's group? Kiran Prabhu, can you? Yeah? So Kiran Prabhu will talk to him. All Yogeshwar Govind Prabhu. Whose team are you? Catch him. He is very much in Melbourne. Why is he not here? I don't know.
Went for shopping.
Went for shopping? Why?
Got some preaching program.
That's okay. Preaching program. Preaching is higher than studying Prabhupada books. You're right. Criteria for Guru Pada-Acharya. We talked about Sampradaya, we talked about Parampara, we talked about institution, we talked about individual qualities, we talked about other considerations like Vani and Vapu. We also talked about what are not the considerations for a spiritual master. It doesn't matter which country he comes from, whether he comes from Ukraine or Belarus, it doesn't matter. His age doesn't matter. He's so young or he's so old. He must be very realized. Years of age is showing his realization. No, not like that. Age has got nothing to do with self-realization. Physical appearance. Whether he is a disciple or grand disciple of Prabhupada. If just because Kadamakanand Swami Maharaj is not a disciple of Srila Prabhupada and I am also not a direct disciple of Srila Prabhupada, doesn't mean Kadamakanand Swami Maharaj is my peer now. Haribol Maharaj, how's it going? No, not like that. Okay. We have to understand that he is an Acharya. He represents Prabhupada. He is as good as Prabhupada for us. Then, we don't go to spiritual masters just because some spiritual masters offer quick initiations and others बहुत देर लगाते हैं. No, that is not a criteria. ये महाराज के पास जाएगा तो, not like that. So there are, or we don't postpone our own surrender to a spiritual master saying that Prabhuji, I am not yet qualified to take a spiritual master. That is not a criteria. It is not that people who have taken spiritual master are all qualified people. The hippies, Prabhupada said, you didn't have any qualifications. I made your qualification after you took shelter. So after taking shelter, we become qualified. So we don't have to wait till becoming qualified to take shelter of spiritual master. Of course, it doesn't mean that Prabhu, you told that we need not have any qualification, so I will continue with meat eating, illicit sex, or or eating onion garlic and going to Bengal tiger, and then take initiation from spiritual master. It doesn't work like that also. At the same time, we have to come to some platform where then we are ready to take a vow to do that activity. First we have to do the activity without a vow, and then we have to do the activity under a vow. So that is the difference between shelter and what we do before shelter. But taking shelter is very important. Otherwise there is no progress in devotional life without that. Of course, it doesn't mean that whatever we also discussed that. It doesn't mean whatever sadhana we do before taking shelter and initiation is useless. No. Because we did that sadhana, Krishna will point us to a genuine spiritual master. Like that. So, transcendental knowledge has got 3 components. What are those? Please remember the famous software. SAP. Very good. SAP. That is transcendental knowledge. What is transcendental knowledge? At the end of the day, Sambandha, Abhideya and Prayojana. SAP. So, a guru who teaches us the knowledge gives true knowledge of SAP is a real guru who tells us who are we, what is our relationship with Krishna, what is the goal of life, and what is the process to attain that goal. If these things are clear, then we will be able to clearly discern who is a cheater and who is a genuine guru. Okay. We also discussed that people who are agya, ignorant or faithless or doubtful, they can be in the movement for years and not go anywhere. So ultimately, the conclusion was transcendent knowledge and its resultant liberation is only possible by faithful, sincere inquiry and service at the feet of a spiritual master. So that completed the 4th chapter, and then we launched ourselves into the 5th chapter, which we are not going to discuss today because that's out of the scope of your first closed book exam. As I said, if you get a personal plan question, please write your personal plan, don't write the philosophy.
What are the different kinds of questions? So one is a personal plan.
So let me tell you what is question number 7.
In general.
That's what I have already told. What I have given hints. I've given enough hints now. Essentially, whatever you have done will come. Nothing will come outside of what we have discussed. But you will have to be able to catch the question. That's all. And that will only happen if you study the Bhagavad Gita.
Is it short answer question or long?
Oh, good question. Actually, it's a good question. I like that question.
2 marks, 4 marks, 10 marks.
All question. There will be 10 questions in the paper. All questions will carry 5 marks. Okay?
How many questions?
10 questions. All will carry 5 marks. There will be no verses. That will be a separate exam. For verses, there will be a separate exam. Okay?
So for 3 hours provision.
This one?
Exam.
For 13 questions, Keshav Prabhu gives us 2 hours. So for 10 questions, how much time? Nothing more than 2 hours is required. More the time, more the nonsense which is written.
Only 13 questions out of the 3 questions is verse book.
Correct. That's why I am giving only 10 questions.
So do we need to write all 10 questions or 10 out of
There will be no choice. Bhakti, there is no choice.
Probably because it's not verse. Story writing will take time.
There will be negative marks for irrelevant stuff. So if you get 5 marks and if you write irrelevant next answer, you lose that also. -2. Okay, no, there is no negative marks. But okay, each answer, please write not more than 1 page, for heaven's sake. More answers more than 1 page will not be evaluated. Just maximum 1 A4 sheet.
One side
One side of page, not like that. Oh, the answer is continuing behind. No, just write points. Just write points. That's all. It is not about how long your answer is. It's about whether all the key points have been covered. So even if you write bullet points, I am okay with that. Keshav Prabhu doesn't like bullet point, but I am okay with that. Bullet points are also, no, these are the points, main points that you have to cover. So, but not more than one page. Let me see if I have not told anything. Yes, the other thing that I would encourage you to do, Haribol. The other thing that we would like you all to do, if you want to come closer to what could be asked in the closed book exam, I sincerely request you to go through in your groups the Purva Swadhyay. If you don't know what is Purva Swadhyay, that means you have not opened the book which has been given to you. So please open it, because that is part of the course. So go through the Purva Swadhyay questions along with your cell leader. So organize meetings with your cell leader and go through the Purva Swadhyay questions. So that is enough of a hint. So if you do that, so whatever is there is coming from the book. Okay, largely. Maybe one or two will be from here and there, based on a case study which is not there, but which we will give. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.